When the Wright brothers took to the air in 1903, the human imagination acquired wings.
Flying for me is a passion, so every time I get to put on this uniform, it's such a sense of accomplishment.
Defying the law of gravity.
In layman's terms, I fly a great big plane, and it's a great bit of fun.
Designed by visionaries, built by engineers.
I've always sort of had the engineering skills quality from a young age.
A future limited only by the imagination.
Aviation is an evolving field and more opportunities are going to come.
For these South African pilots and engineers, the sky's the limit. Welcome aboard Inside Africa.
Hi, my name is Melissa, also known as @Pilot on the Gram. I'm a 24-year-old commercial pilot, content creator, and aircraft manager. Growing up, a lot of people told me that I would never be able to accomplish my dream of being a pilot, but that didn't sit well with me, so I continued to work hard until it became a reality.
And she's using social media to share her world.
And I started this journey last year, mainly focusing on flying. So I never had the intention that my accounts would grow as much as they did, and I'm so grateful that it did, because I started off with about 4,000 followers last year, and now I'm at almost 90,000 followers on Instagram, over 700,000 followers on TikTok. My most viewed video on TikTok has 33.3 million views. I have a wonderfully diverse audience from all over the world. It's just been an incredible journey.
While she enjoys seeing the numbers grow, there's a more important purpose behind it: to encourage young people, especially girls who have aspirations of working in the industry, to keep reaching for their goals.
So when I make my videos, I make sure to not only answer questions that a lot of my followers have, but also to give them a bit more insight of what actually goes on. I plan on filling the gap in the industry, so making sure that information is more readily available, having people also just have a look at what actually goes on in the flight deck. It's more than just, taking off and engaging autopilot.
Melissa pilots a Beechcraft King Air 200, a twin turboprop workhorse that has been in continuous production since 1974, the longest production run of any civilian turboprop aircraft in its class.
In order to prepare for a flight, a number of things have to happen. So all preparation begins on the ground. We have to take these covers off. We put them on in order to protect the exhausts from any birds or any kind of things getting into them. I've already set up the cockpit in terms of getting the ATIS frequency, plugging in the headset. The GoPro's already set up, as well as the tracker for the flight. So I just need to set up the GPS now. This just saves a bit of time if we save the route beforehand. So today we're going to a game reserve called Madikwe. So I've already headed to Google Maps so that we have a really nice satellite image of what the runway is going to look like, as well as any key features, what we're going to look out for when we fly overhead, to just double confirm that it is the runway.
She says the King Air 200 is the ideal aircraft for the type of flights she does.
I have the privilege of flying clients all the time into game reserves, and Africa is so beautiful, as you know. There was an instance when we landed and giraffe ran across the runway, and it was lucky for me that I had my camera that day.
When they're on the ground in between flights, Melissa and her co-pilot fiancé Wesley enjoy spending time in a cockpit of a different kind.
We not only share the love for aviation, but we are definitely speed enthusiasts as well.
According to Melissa, there are only about 10 cars on the road like this one.
This Millennium 7 was built off the Lotus 7 concept. This car is actually put together by Africa Charter Airlines engineers to make it 10 times better, as well as aerodynamic. It's 800 horsepower and the turbo on this thing is just insane. When we do get a gap out of our busy schedule as charter pilots, we really enjoy exploring South Africa. I love eating around the clock. So when it comes to good food, good wine, I love being there. My favorite food at the moment would be anything pizza related or pasta related. You can't go wrong when you choose either of those options.
There's an old saying that goes, choose a job you love and you'll never have to work a day in your life. This is a sentiment that Melissa lives by.
So each time I get into an aircraft, it's just such an indescribable feeling. Sometimes I catch myself in awe that, you know what, I'm actually doing this. I'm living my dream life. So, you know, you'll look and the views are just immaculate. The destinations that I travel to are just so beautiful. I just couldn't ask for more.
I'm an aeronautical engineer by trade. My full-time job entails designing airports. On the side, I am a model, a traveler, and an advocate for gender equality in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and maths.
Born in rural Eastern Cape, Linda Ngozwana is a small-town girl reaching for the stars.
The family which I was raised in was a very large family. It was a very loving home, and we got literally anything and everything that we wanted.
Recently graduated, Linda's first job is as a junior airside systems engineer at NACO, Netherlands Airport Consultants, based in Johannesburg.
I particularly work on the airside systems. So those are all the systems that you find on the airside of the runway, which is everything after like the passenger board bridge or once you get into a bus, everything on that side of the airport.
While formerly trained in aeronautics, Linda's current role requires a brand new skill set.
So this shows a 3D model that we have been working on. As you can see, this shows also the runway, and it shows a helipad here. Now you can actually see what the design looks like in 3D as opposed to the 2D model. I like to think of engineering as more of a mindset than an actual profession. So as much as we are taught to build aircraft, now I design airports. So it's more civil engineering and more electrical engineering, but it speaks about how engineering is more of how you come together to solve problems. Usually I start from like the runway and then going to the taxiways.
Linda says she feels a great sense of pride, knowing that her name will be listed as one of the designers on international airports she is currently working on.
This is a very exciting field to be in. I would definitely encourage a lot of young people who want to come into this space. Just be willing to work hard and be confident.
Taken on a safari to the world-famous Kruger National Park when she was just a week old, this dynamic engineer has inherited an insatiable wanderlust from her parents.
I am the definition of work to travel. So far I've been to 25 countries, and some of my favorite places are like Paris. It's everything that people say it is and probably more. I really enjoyed Cambodia as well, just learning about how the people there live.
But after traveling the globe, it's returning to her own continent that still holds the most intrigue.
Of all the places that I've been to, Africa is still my favorite, just how diverse we are. So you can see I've been to Egypt. I recently, this year, did Namibia, and that was really fun. And it's so close, but it has so much to offer as well. And also Tanzania is one of my favorite places that I've been to in Africa.
For this budding aviation professional, it's not just airport runways, aprons and hangars. This part-time model gets to express a different part of her personality.
Nice, yes. Looking into camera, love it.
What I love about modeling is that it just showcases the beauty in the person. And being in art, it allows you to be as crazy as you want. It allows you to go to any extent that you can go to. So it's just a form of an expression where you can be this person in front of a camera and still like look amazing.
Linda's modeling career started out as a casual pastime during her university days.
Beautiful.
And it used to be something I used to do as an extra, just to get my head out of my studies. and focus on something else.
As enjoyable as this side hustle may be, challenging preconceived ideas seem to come with the job.
Because you belong in a certain profession, people like to associate it with what you can or cannot do. And that's the stereotype I'm breaking.
On some days, the South African beauty prefers to get behind the camera lens instead.
My love for photography started with having photography friends, seeing what they do and how much work they put into it and how much you admire a beautiful picture after. That started the love for it, but also being in modeling as well. It helped me understand the importance of a good picture.
And when she just wants to relax and have fun, she meets up with her friends at the local roller skating rink.
I started skating about a year ago, and it was a fun hobby to pick up. I really enjoy the feeling of being on skates and being able to do different movements while skating, just the vibey feel of it, and that you can dance while you skate as well. I'm not perfect at it, but I'm still learning a lot.
Linda's friend, Bokang Kwadi, also an aeronautical engineer, can't get enough of the action.
We both share a love for roller skating. She's more advanced than I am, so she shows me the tricks that I don't know how to do.
While Bokang's skills on skates are still a bit shaky, her career as an aeronautical engineer is set to soar. Aeronautical engineer Bokang Kwadi is all about action.
I'm not the kind of person you'll find sitting home on a Saturday, so I like to try out new things every single time. Go bungee jumping, go skydiving, whatever it is.
Always up for a challenge, her friend and fellow engineer Linda Ngozwana talked her into trying roller skating.
So I'm still finding my footing around that.
Just as in life, she says that getting back up again when you take a fall is the key to success. For this fun-loving engineer, embracing the joy of each moment is important.
I just love laughing. I genuinely love laughing. Like if you come into a room, I'm like the least serious person that is cracking jokes, and I enjoy life.
While Bokang may still be finding her feet roller skating, conversational chit-chat is something she's got down to a fine art.
I've met quite a number of people that have said I'm a social butterfly. I draw energy from just speaking and meeting new people wherever I go. I'll fit into any group of any age, anyhow, and I'll find myself just comfortable and loving it and laughing and having a good time. Most of the things that I talk about with people, I guess it depends on the kind of environment there is. With my friends, we largely talk about boys and careers, just for my parents that are watching. It just depends on the setting and the environment, but conversationally, it's just always, it flows.
At work, Bokang displays a more serious side, always keenly focused on the job at hand.
Bokang speaking.
She works at Aerosud, the largest manufacturer of aircraft parts and assemblies on the African continent.
I work in procurement, which is basically supply chain. I mostly communicate with suppliers that provide us with the material and the components that we need to build the parts that need to be then shipped to your Airbus and your Boeing companies.
She says that the intricacy and design of aircraft components have always fascinated her, something she attributes to her early days.
I do remember I was very inquisitive as a child. So I remember receiving a doll, and it was a doll that could speak. So instead of just playing around with it and hearing all the sounds it makes, what I decided to do is actually unscrew it and be on some, what's making this doll talk?
Working at a large aircraft manufacturing facility with a large staff complement and many departments calls for more than just technical skills. Soft skills, such as clear and effective communication, are vitally important too. And talk is something Bokang is definitely not short of.
There's a bit of delay on the production for the galley.
Once an aircraft part has been designed, it's Bokang's job to procure the raw materials and components required.
So I will ensure that the material is purchased from the supplier and dispatched to the workshop when it arrives at Aerosuite. They will then machine them to produce, for example, the wingtip that needs to be shipped to Airbus.
This is the emergency exit door.
Bokang initially dreamed of being a commercial pilot, but switched to engineering as her parents could not afford the sky-high flight school fees. With a great deal of job satisfaction in her current role, she says she has no regrets.
What I love is that I get to actually see holistically how a company operates rather than just having to design a certain part of an aircraft. So I think I enjoy having to learn an entire new space because that then allows me to be a holistic engineer. So I'm sort of multifaceted in the engineering industry.
And she has some sound advice for other newcomers to the industry.
As a person, never forget what defines you. Never forget your core values and really what you hold dear to your heart.
I would describe myself as a citizen of the world, a passionate aviator, and someone who would like to pay it forward in recognition of those who have done so for me, particularly in our male-dominated sphere.
Nandi Zama is a pilot in the South African Air Force.
Each morning when I put on my uniform, it's an opportunity for me to show the world the organization that I belong to, that I am a proud member of the Air Force and that I get to do an amazing job in service of my fellow South Africans and the country.
She's the first black woman in the history of South Africa to command and fly a C-130BZ Hercules, based at 28th Squadron at Air Force Base Waterkloof in Pretoria.
We are a medium utility aircraft. We do tactical airlift in the greater part of the African continent and at times beyond. We serve in the transport line of the South African Air Force, transporting our troops, our cargo and equipment, providing humanitarian aid, doing all manner of tactical operations in pursuit of air power, which is the Air Force's mandate. In layman's terms, I fly a great big plane, and it's a great bit of fun. All right, crew, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to your pre-flight briefing. So my typical day starts off with a morning briefing for all the operators. We get an idea of what's on the schedule for the day, what are the requirements, who's where, and what's available to do the work. I would then head off and have a look at scheduling, availability, currencies, which is basically everyone's readiness to fly, and I'd advise the ops coordinator and the ops room.
And then, of course, there's the admin. Plenty of it.
We arrive dressed in our work dress and we go through our administrative checks, make sure your own personal admin is done, logbooks, training files, you are flight ready. We call it being fit to fly. We fly in a multi-crew environment, so a minimum crew for my flight is 6 people. So we have to cross-check that everyone is ready to fly and that we are legal to fly. Then it's off to do the nice stuff, the flying. So when I'm not flying or involved with any kind of work, I'm a homebody. I really enjoy just being in my space and I enjoy cooking once I am home. Okay, so I'm gonna make a Creole-based seafood dish. It's like my take, not a very authentic take on a jambalaya, and I cheat. It's one pot cooking. So I started off with some oil and I use pre-made flavor packs. These are some of the things that I buy from my travels.
When it comes to keeping this high-flying pilot grounded, friends and family are the main ingredient.
My family has grown to just beyond my nuclear mom, brothers, sisters, grandmother, and I've really made family throughout the course of my career. So anytime that I'm decompressing and I'm at home and we're having these sessions of cooking, it almost always involves my chosen family, you know. Some of my closest friends join us, they cook with me, and we set up camp on the kitchen counters and just have a great evening with it. I love to entertain. I don't really do it often enough. It's really a core concept that I've taken from my own family. It's a crucial part of me, the family I was born into and the family that I've chosen along the way. And it's just one big unit of love, of support, and I could not be more grateful for the people that I have.
With an intensely busy work schedule, this overachiever has still found the time to go back to school.
I had the brilliant idea that it just wasn't enough to just be flying, and I went and I enrolled for an undergraduate degree. So added to my work, which is quite an erratic schedule, I'm also enrolled for a Bachelor of Arts in Neuropsychology. I loved the idea of relearning the brain and how the brain interacts with, say, the machine, because my thought was how can I find my place in this new interaction between man and machine and how it's changing.
And it's this interaction between pilot and machine that drives her to greater heights.
The flight we're doing today is a local area training flight, and we're going to commence this flight late in the afternoon and continue into a night flying. So as military aviators, we have to maintain not only a day flying capability, we have to maintain capability to fly in bad weather conditions as well as night flying capabilities. We are basically flying a fixed pattern. Some people call it a race course pattern. The circuit, go level, configure the aircraft, we'll run through our checklists and position ourselves onto a final approach onto the runway in use.
Tonight's training flight will include 3 landings and an immediate takeoff called a touch and go.
We're going to turn onto the runway. Now that we're established on final approach, we'll commence with the descent to do our touch and go on runway 01. And basically what that is to do the landing, touch down, and then check aircraft configuration while we are rolling, take power, and we'll get airborne once again to do that race course pattern all over.
Nandi says the question she is most often asked is, what is it like to fly a C-130?
It really feels great. It feels like so freeing. But I think any aviator would say the same for any aircraft that they're flying. It's that, leaving the ground, that freedom of the air, that three-dimensional movement and control over a massive machine and getting it to do just what you want it to do at the right time. It really is the most incredible feeling. It's very hard to describe, so everyone should experience it for themselves.